Hello everybody, Sunday Adelaja here. I'm going back to our teachings that we are going to continue with the teachings that we have started about African people. Are black African people cursed? Are black African people cursed? Well, not really. we would not, if you study history, if you study history, you will discover that no, African people are not cursed. And they are rather a blessing. They are a blessing to the world. And I'm going to be talking about Europe today and how African people lived in Europe and brought civilization to Europe and were a blessing to Europe. So today's topic is Africans in ancient Europe. Africans in ancient Europe. So go and share the message with everybody. Share. And here we go. So let's start with England. We're going to start with the presence of black people in England. Scottish folklorist David MacRitchie, who's and also English historian Godfrey Higgins and Gerald Massey presented some impressive evidence of the presence of black people in the British Isles. In the British Isles, in antiquity. It is in particular linguistic evidence until the 19th century. Physical residue of black people or people of near Negroid type were found in Western Great Britain. You see, like the statue of the head. This statue head from the incomplete remains of a life-size statue found in the temple of Anu-Seti, which was an extramural temple outside the southeastern corner of Roman fort of Condecum, present-day Benwell, outside of Newcastle upon Tyne. Newcastle, that's in. The temple was destroyed by fire in 197 AD in an uprising of the Metis, a tribe of the Brigantes, and was never restored. So this is one of the old ancient statues that was found in England, around Newcastle. So this is notwithstanding centuries of mixing with dominant Celtics and Anglo-Saxons who had also settled in this region. Despite that, they were still able to trace black history, black presence in England. Existence of an Egyptian Cushitic, which is like Kushite, black, Egyptian Cushitic colony with African population in Britain can be also proven by a reflection of African culture on Druids in the pre-Christian period. I'm sure you people know about the Druids, right? If not, they are some of the warriors that I was mentioning a little bit of them here. Druids were priests of ancient Celtic nations that formed a closed but not hereditary class. They also served as judges, dealt in medicine and astronomy, and also defended the British Isles when the invaders were coming to take it. They were one of the people who fought for the island. Researcher John Oubre attributed construction of such British megaliths like Stonehenge to Druids. Stonehenge is the evidence of the earliest presence in England. David MacRitchie knows that Britons may be divided into two types by their physical characteristics: Xanthochroids with pure white skin and Melanochroids with black hair. Concerning Melanochroids, he quotes English biologist Thomas Henry Huxley, the president of the Royal Society of London and foreign correspondent of the Peterborough Academy of Sciences. Melanochroids are the result of mixing of Xanthochroids and Australoids. As regards the Australoids, from the point of view of D. MacRitchie, They include all native population of Australia, native of the Deccan Plateau, and residents of Middle and Upper Egypt, the entire territory occupied by the descendants of ancient Egyptians. They have chocolate brown skin and a wide nose. In the 19th, 20th century, Australoids were included in the Negroid race. From a cultural point of view, the Australoid element is visible in the construction of dolmens, stone circles, and pyramids, the residue of which were found throughout Great Britain and Western Europe. According to MacRitchie, black people were the first people in Britain. And this is not a black man saying this. This is not my own assertion. This is from history. You see that most of the things I'm doing, I'm only reading from history. These are just historical facts. And I'm reading from my book. I wrote all this in my book, How Africans Brought Civilization to Europe. They were quickly followed by representatives of other ethnic types, such as, for example, Mongoloid, but here too, we can trace black people. Thus, Huns, a nomadic people of Asia who invaded Europe in the 370s, led by Attila, were descendants of a Central Asian people, Xiongnu. Jordan, a Gothic historian of the 6th century, describes Huns as dark-skinned, almost black people. According to his description, Attila himself had a flat nose and dark skin. He singled out Kidarite, a nomadic community of Asia called the Black Huns. Perhaps a similar combination of racial elements was present in Silurs, Celtic tribes that fiercely resisted the Roman conquest of Britain. The description of Silurs' appearance by the Roman historic Tacitus, brown faces of Silurs, their curly hair, and the fact that Spain was just opposite their coast indicate arrival of Iberians in the old days and their occupation of these places. International significance of the Hun invasion was partly determined by far-reaching changes in the position of Anto-Slavic tribes. By destroying the power of Ostrogoths, Huns prevented the possibility of Germanization of Anto-Slavs in southern Rus. The era of Hun invasion is thus, in a sense, a period of liberation of Eastern Slavs, not only from Gothic but also from Iranian control. During Attila's rule, the Hun Union, with a center in Padonia, reached maximum expansion, covering the area from the Volga and Caucasus to the Rhine. It is known that the first inhabitants of Britain, especially in the northern region, from the point of view of craniology, a complex of scientific disciplines examining normal variations of humans and animal skull shapes, belong to a type similar to the Negroid and Australoid races. By the late 19th century, Huxley's Xanthochroid group had been redefined as the Nordic race, whereas its Melanochroid became the Mediterranean race. As such, Huxley's Melanochroid eventually also comprised various other dark Caucasoid populations, including the Hamites, e.g. Berbers, Somalis, Northern Sudanese, ancient Egyptians, and Moors. Okay. Although, you see, the way they were calling them the Hamites, you know, they are that is all coming from that is quoting from the authors, because, you know, they used to call all dark people Hamite, and I've already dispelled that Ham theory, right? That it's not Ham that these people came, not all these people come. They came from Hamite, of course, from the root of Hamite, but the black people came from Kush. Although, of course, there are no Britons who will be as black as Negroes anymore, but some of them are as dark as mulattoes. Black blood flows in the veins of modern Melanochroid of Britain. British Moors are a separate topic. An extensive review of what Moors were and what their achievements were will be made in the next teaching. For now, we will go with a definition of the Oxford Dictionary of English that states that from the medieval times till the 17th century, the term Moor was applied to people with black and or extremely dark skin, and was often used to refer to Negroes. MacRitchie was absolutely convinced that Moors were black people that played a significant role in colonization of Western Europe, especially Britain. According to his data, part of these people inhabited Britain, and they can be found not only as Moors or Moors, but also as Moravians, Morins, Moray, and Moray people. In Scotland, a number of clans and regions still are named Moray. In such an area, one of the castles built by Moray Baronets is called the Black Baron Domain. Similarly, Professor J. Rogers notes that existence of such names indicates existence of a black ancestor, including in some noble British families. One of the kings of the Kingdom of Scotland from the 10th to the 13th century, known as the Kingdom of Alba, was Black Dove, or Dove, the Vehement, who was called Nigger, or the Black. The Pictish Chronicle, which is one of the most valuable resources of ancient Scotland's history, indicates that the whole nation was divided into 7 regions, and Dove ruled 3 of them. They were called Black and were apparently populated by black people. As a result of a research of the Western Isle of Scotland in 1691, inhabitants of the Isle of Skye were described as mostly black, inhabitants of the Isles of Jura as mostly black, and the Isle of Arran inhabitants as mostly brown, and some black skin. Historian GODFREY HIGGINS compared gods worshipped in the British Island and Ireland with deities of the Mediterranean, especially of Greece and Phoenicia. And Phoenicia is a civilization of black people. Thus, the African goddess Neith, who we've already discussed, had her counterpart in Ireland, the goddess Nath. As fantastic as it seems, there are substantial grounds for believing that Africans inhabited Ireland. For example, there is a legend of African seafarers, Fomorians, whose fortress was located on Tory Island, an island in the Atlantic Ocean of the northern coast of Ireland. Historian GEOFFREY KEATING claimed that Fomorians were descendants of Ham, the son of Noah. And all these Europeans like Ham. They always refer to all dark people as coming from Ham. The son of Noah, and were sailors from Africa. According to another work, they were Carthaginians who had established a commercial port on the coast of Western Ireland. According to the legend, Fomorians fought Tuatha de Danann, the tribes of the goddess Danu. We also find the goddess Anu in Irish religious myth. She is often identified with the Irish goddess Anan and the goddess Danu, the greatest goddess and ruler of Tuatha. Danu was worshipped as the goddess of prosperity and abundance, and the mountains in Killarney island that resemble female breasts were named in her honor. In their turn, ancient Egyptians called their immediate predecessors Anu, among whom Anu-Seti were residents of Nubia, living on the banks of the Nile, you see. So Egyptians called their immediate predecessors, people who lived before them in Egypt, Anu. And we know that those people came from the group of tribe in Sudan or in Nubia called Anu-Seti. And the same Anu are the people that the Scottish and the Irish people are worshipping and talking about. We should also mention that the term Anu was applied to ancient inhabitants of Libya called Anu-Tehennu. Egyptians called two of their most important cities Hermonthis and Heliopolis. Anu, the most educated Egyptians, received Heliopolis Anu. The most educated Egyptians received their training there, including Moses, who, according to fragments of Manetho's works, lived in the northern Anu. In Egyptian eschatology, a system of religious beliefs and perception of life after death, Anu was an abode of a resurrected spirit of the dead. Certain Irish historical records bear evidence of a Viking raid on Spain and North Africa in 862, as a result of which a number of black people were captured and brought to Dublin, Ireland. It is believed that they were the legendary blue people referred to in ancient folklore. Historian Alan Orr Anderson's work contains the following lines. They were blue people because Moors were like Negroes. Mauritanians is also a land of Negroes, literally with the same blackness. Yep. Norway had a significant presence of black people also. Their presence in Scandinavia during the Viking Age was inter alia due to the fact that Carthaginians and their predecessors, Phoenicians, carried out regular sea journeys to this region in search of thin meal. There was always a lot of black sailors and merchants on their ships. Now let's move to another region. Colchis is a land situated along the western slope of Caucasian Range, nearby eastern shores of the Black Sea on the border with Europe and Asia. It was believed that the Golden Fleece that, according to Greek mythology, Jason and Argonaut were looking for was located there. So the Greek historian Herodotus considered Colchis a colony of the civilization of the Nile Valley, formed in the 19th century during the reign of the 12th dynasty of ancient Egypt. Today, it is the territory of Georgia, Turkey, and Russia. Herodotus not only pointed to black skin and hair of Colchians, but also to the oral tradition, language, weaving method, and circumcision practices. According to his account, Colchians, it seems, were Egyptians. I figured it out myself even before I heard it from the others. I got interested and started asking about this relation in both Colchis and Egypt. Colchians kept a clearer memory of Egyptians than Egyptians did of Colchians. Egyptians, however, told me that they believe Colchians originated from warriors of Sesostris, that is Egyptian army. This is, do you see the black man there? The black man with the Kazakh knife. That black man is a Russian, present day Russian. They used to look like this. In Abkhazia, they call them Abkhazia, today, right now. It's Abkhazia. It's a whole region. It's a whole republic in Russia. They used to look like this, but because they mix up, They become more like Asians now. But look at the way Abkhazia used to look over 100 or less than 200 years ago. So they are black people. All these are Abkhazians. And then these are their descendants. Look at the way they are now looking. They are all Caucasians. They call them the Caucasians now. They call them Kafkadze here. This is the way they used to live. It used to look. And this was 100 years ago. But now they are becoming brighter, brighter, brighter. They are now Russians. Yeah. I came to the same, they are Georgians, Armenians, all those people. I came to the same conclusion because they were dark-skinned and had frizzy hair, far more solid are the following arguments. Only 3 nations on the planet were practicing circumcision since the beginning of time: Colchians, Egyptians, and Ethiopians. Yeah, Ethiopians means not the Ethiopian country, but Africans. Because Yorubas were practicing it, Igbos were practicing it even before the Christians came. Most African tribes were practicing it. The Colchians, Ethiopians, and Egyptians have thick lips, broad nose, woolly hair, and they are burnt of skin, you see. Herodotus was describing Ethiopians and Egyptians and Colchians, these are the Caucasus, as the same people. The same people, even though they are living in Europe. Colchians are in Europe, Ethiopians are in Africa, Egyptians are also in Africa, but they describe them the same way. Just like you will see in the picture here, even though they are Europeans, but this is the way they were looking. Phoenicians and Syrians in Palestine recognized that they borrowed this custom from Egyptians. I'll give you another similarity between Colchians and Egyptians. Only they and Egyptians produce canvas the same way. Also, their whole way of life and language are similar. Historian Diodorus of Sicily was of the same opinion. Identity of Egyptians and Colchians. Look at Michael Tyson. If you look at his picture, look at that old statue. Is it not similar? Identity of Egyptians and Colchians. Egyptians said they believed that Colchians to be the descendant from the army of Sesostris. My own conjectures were founded first on the fact that they are black-skinned and have woolly hair, which certainly amounts to but little since several other nations had so too, but further and more especially on the circumstance that Colchians, the Egyptians, and the Ethiopians are the only nations who have practiced circumcision from the earliest times. In the 4th century AD, St. Jerome, a historian and creator of the canonical Latin text of the Bible, called Colchians the second Ethiopia. 200 years later, Saphronius, the Patriarch of Jerusalem, mentioned the presence of Ethiopians in the same region. Even nowadays, there is a small community of people with black skin and frizzy hair on the territory of which Herodotus used to write. Thus, we have discovered the presence of Africans and consequently their roots in modern nations of the United Kingdom, Ireland, Scandinavia, countries, Georgia, and Russia. If you look at these ancient black people of Europe, you will see the different photographs. Over there on the top, you see the lady, the ivory bangled lady, that's from York, England. Totally black in features. And this was 350 years before, this was 350 AD after death of Christ. That's the way they used to look. Cheddar man, that is the archaeological discovery of 12,000 BC, and they were black. In Monaco, old woman and child, Grimaldi grave 43,000 years before Christ. That old woman and child that was discovered in the grave of Monaco were black, a black woman. The Iceman found in the Italian Alps in 1991, Odyssey, or the Simulian man, was 3,000 years, 350 before Christ, was also black. Varna, Bulgaria, 4,600 years before Christ, black man with the features was also, black woman was also black. Kostenki man, that was found, Kostenki, do you know Kostenki man in Ukraine? 34,000 years before Christ, 34,000 years was found in Ukraine. The elements here in Ukraine, you see, totally black. Carpathian Mountains of Romania, 35,000 years, also black. And Surgin man, Vladimir, in city of Vladimir in Russia, 26,000 years before Christ, in Russia also. So all these people all over the world, you see black remnants, and these are archaeological findings describe black people all over Europe from ancient of times. So the ancient black people of Europe, that's the map right there, beautiful. So next we'll discuss the direct influence that Africans had on the Roman Empire. We're going to talk about Africans in the Roman Empire tomorrow. So please go and share the message, share. And while you are sharing it, I would also like to make an announcement that if you want to join our mentorship program, you can by going to sundatlajablog.com/mentorship. If you wish to get my books, you can get them on my blog also, sundatlajablog.com/books. If you want to come with us to Africa, it's sundatlajablog.com/Nigeria. If you wish to come for History Makers training with me, it's HMT. You can go to sundatlajablog.com/HMT. So thank you so very much for your time. We are going to do a video right now, and I hope that the video will be able to even give you better understanding. Okay, here we go.
Septimius Severus ruled. Black people began to rule the Roman Empire. That's why for 193 AD time period. Then, 1453, the fall of Constantinople by the Ottoman Turks. That's when the Europeans began to, that's when the Europeans began to come back in power, the Caucasians, because what? They dwelt in an area called the Caucasus Mountains. So remember this, Rome, 193 AD, they come back in power in 1453. So the project is iconoclasm. That means breaker of images. So we're going to read through these books.
You have 10 minutes.
Okay. We're going to go to the book called The Icon, page 126. I had to write this down. It's a lot of pages. And real quick, we're going to relate this back to the Bible. So page 126, right here. I'm going to show the pictures and I'm going to pass it down. So everybody pass around, all right? Right here, you're going to see dark images of Jesus Christ and his mother. The images of the prophets and the apostles, they were always painted dark-skinned people. It was the time of 1453 when they started to paint over them as Caucasian people. But they were always painted as dark people. And that's what I'm going to show you in all these books. So a lot of these images were produced before the Renaissance. Now we're going to go to page 155. Page 155, I'm going to show you. 155. Now, I want you to look at this, and we're going to start from right here. Notice right here, you're going to pass it around. Notice right here, you're going to see a dark image. You're going to see a dark image right here. You're going to see he was painted dark. But notice around him, they painted him what? A lighter image. You see it? Yeah. It's dark right there, and around him you're going to see a light. So pass it around the class so you can see it. Now the next book, since we got short time, the next book is going to be Art Treasures of Russia. This book right here, you're going to see more images of the prophets, and all of them being painted as dark-skinned men. Because a lot of times in class, in history, we always learn, when we see people like Septimius Severus, Charlemagne, the Anglo-Saxons, we always see them as these were great famous Caucasian men, when these were really black men that ruled. Rome, the Byzantine Empire, was ruled by black men. So now go to page 37. Page 37. And on this one, same history and all that. Right here, you see the Archangel Michael in the middle, Jesus Christ. Right next to him is Gabriel. What color are they painted? They're painted very dark. But in many books after 1453, they're painted white. Why? You had famous iconoclasts, Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, Donatello, 3 Ninja Turtles. They were hired to paint over these images. When I went to Rome and the Vatican, and I saw the 16th chapel, he was hired to paint biblical characters, Caucasian men. Why? So that when a lot of people begin to read the history of the Israelites and Jews, they would think that they were Caucasians. That's why. That's history. Now, go to page 78. Page 78. Page 78. So pass it around. Oh, right there. This here is a scene from the Bible called the Transfiguration. And when you see the prophets, you're going to see them as men of color. Notice here his garment is white, but the skin complexion on the prophets, they're all dark-skinned men. Because when you read the scriptures, you always read about the prophets. They always describe themselves as dark-skinned men. And our forefathers, black men, they painted them as that image of being men of color. But what happened? Remember this. 1453, the Renaissance. So now, we're going to go to Spain, a history and art. We're going to go to page 60. We're going to go to page 60. I want you guys to look at this. Now these women are what color? White. What color are their fingertips? Black. What happened? They got their fingertips dipped in chocolate? No, they weren't dipped in chocolate. They were hired to paint over the images. Why are their fingertips black, but their skin is white? Because they had iconoclasts, 1453, paint over these images. When I went to the Louvre in Paris, a lot of the biblical images throughout the museum, white. Then there was a back room. And when I went inside that room, I seen a lot of dark-skinned images. I seen icons. And I was like, Dad, they got all these images in the back room, but in the open area when you're walking through, you see all these images, Caucasian men, famous Caucasian men, you would think. But in the back room, smaller area, you see images that, what I'm showing you, dark images, all right? So, wait, where's the book, The Icon? Right when you finish, pass it back up. There's something I want to read. I'm not going to be able to go through every page. Now I'm going to show you Queen Elizabeth.
5 minutes.
No problem. Queen Elizabeth, I'm going to show you something. Page 77. I'm going to show you right here. Right here is Henry VIII. Right there. Okay, good. Thank you. Go to page where it says the icons of Constantinople. Right here is King Henry VIII. King Henry VIII, if you type it on Wikipedia, you're going to see a Caucasian man. That's what you're going to see, Caucasian man. This is Henry VIII. He's a black man. Famous king, black man. But you see them as Caucasian man. Guess who this is in the middle? Queen Elizabeth I. She's a black woman. This is Queen Elizabeth I. What happened? 1453. Whitewashed all images. That's what happened. They whitewashed history. So pass that around. Pass that around. So now we're going to read, just right here in the beginning. I'm sorry. Right here in the beginning. Almost finished. Read this part where it says, it may seem daring. Right here. Wait, no, start from iconoclasm.
It says iconoclasm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's Venetian looting in 1204.
Right.
And the sack by the Turks in 1453.
Remember I said the Ottoman Turks sacked the Byzantine Empire, 1453. That's what
Are the main reasons why only very few icons have survived in Constantinople.
Right.
In It may seem daring, therefore, to write an entire chapter on the icons of the capital.
Right.
Yet the situation is not quite so hopeless.
The situation of a lot of these icons with dark-skinned people, it's not so hopeless. Why? Because there are still some images that survive. That's why I'm able to show you these dark-skinned images. They didn't whitewash every painting because it was too many. Read on.
It says, icons existed not only as panel paintings,
right,
but also as frescoes and wall mosaics,
right,
some of which have emerged from layers of whitewash.
They've emerged from what?
Of whitewash?
Layers of whitewash. That's why when I showed you that Christian woman, she had her image around there. She was all painted white, but her fingertips were black. Why? Because a lot of times they didn't finish whitewashing these images. Now that's all I wanted. Real quick, almost finished, bro. Almost finished. This is page 116. Guess who this is? Spartacus. This is found in Tel Aviv, 1954. He's a black man. But why do we always see him as Caucasian men? Whitewashing. That's why. This is Spartacus. You can pass the book. And one more. Two more points. Go to page 77. This is the Oxford, oldest English university. The Oxford Illustrated History of Medieval Europe. We're going to go to page 77, and we're going to look on the wall. Almost done, page 77. I think it's page 77. Oh, 177, I'm sorry. 177. Right here. I want you guys to look at this. This is Hosea, Daniel, King David, and Daniel, Hosea, Jonah, and King David. What color are they painted? Black, right, brown men. Guess when this was before 1453. This is the remarkable windows at Augsburg Cathedral. So you guys can pass that around. Here you go. Now we're going to read one scripture to show why it happened in history. Okay, thank you. First Maccabees. In the Holy Bible, you have a book called the Apocrypha. The Apocrypha was taken out of the Holy Bible in the 1700s by the Protestant Church. The Apocrypha, you could get a King James Version Bible, 1611. You'll see the Apocrypha in it. This Bible has the Apocrypha in it. It cost me a great deal of money, but it has it. It's still in it. So read First Maccabees chapter 1. First Maccabees 1:1. We're going to read about Alexander the Great, and we're going to read about what the Greeks did when they took the records of the Bible.
First Maccabees chapter 1 and verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Kittim, and smitten Darius, king of the Persians.
Remember, Alexander's forefather was Philip of Macedon. Now jump to verse 9 about what happened. You're going to see what happened when the Greeks.
And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves, so that they sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth.
What did the Bible just say?
And evils were multiplied in the earth.
Because what the Greeks were doing, it was all against the Holy Scriptures. So go to 1 Maccabees 3:48. We're going to show you what the Greeks did. The Greeks took the records of the Israelites, and then there's something they did. Okay, thank you.
1 Maccabees 3:48.
Listen to what the Greeks did. Because iconoclasm, breaking images, that's nothing new. The Greeks took the records of the Israelites and they painted over them as white men. You're going to see it right here.
And laid open the book of the law.
The book of the law is the Holy Bible.
Wherein the heathen.
The heathen is talking about the Greeks because this is when Alexander, this is the time of Antiochus. But it's from chapter 1, it's talking about Alexander the Great. Chapter 3 goes in the time of Antiochus. He came out of the line of Seleucus, one of Alexander the Great's 4 generals. Come on.
Wherein the heathen had sought to paint the likeness of their images.
That's what they did. They took the records of the Israelites, and what did they do?
Paint the likeness of their images.
Here it is in this called Our Living Bible. Israelite priests painted black men. These are Jews, black men. But what did the Greeks do? They painted over it. So I'm sorry, that was it. If you guys have any questions, please ask them now. All right? Any questions? Yes.
Was this only in America that they really did this?
No. They did this throughout all of Europe.
But I mean, like.
That question's irrelevant. This didn't happen. He's not talking about
When
America.
I say only in America, I mean, like. Are there more pictures that are shown throughout the world that do have darker skin?
Well, that's what he's talking about.
Right. That's exactly what I was showing. Because like this book, Art Treasures of Russia. In this book, Art Treasures of Russia, you see dark skin images all over. throughout Russia. Because when you look up the history of the slave trade, they took a lot of slaves from Russia. Why were slaves in Russia? Because black people ruled Russia at one point in time. The reason why.
Would they have pictures of?
Yeah, a lot of these areas they're there. Because the reason why they called it the Dark Ages was because dark people ruled. So they called it the Dark Ages. That's why. But when they came back in power, 1453, they overthrew everything. Any other questions?
Oh, yeah, Henry VIII and Elizabeth I. Are you talking about England?
Exactly. Any other questions? No other questions? I know y'all got questions. What's your question?
You're basically saying all the rulers, and according with everyone, all the prophets, Jesus, were all black.
All dark skin men.